Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us in today's session of News, Trust and Truth. Do children and young people still trust news sources? My name is Florencia Donagaray. I'm a children's TV producer as well as a graduate from the University of Salford's MA program in children's TV production. Just to let you know, we're going to go really quickly through some things that you might find useful or interesting. So this presentation will be available afterwards, and I will happy to email across the whole research for anyone interested in delving deeper into the data we've gathered and also full reports on the qualitative findings we had. Just a little bit more about how this research was born. This research is a result of a partnership between the University of Salford and CBC's Newsround. Both the university and Newsround, we were interested in kind of finding out what was this whole issue of fake news affecting children. We heard a lot about fake news as a general problem, as a problem for the society as a whole, but we haven't seen any resources really devoted to trying to understand how children are relating to news and information. And the few studies we saw on that area were kind of worrying in the sense that they were putting children in a kind of like a passive position with headlines that said things like, they are failing terribly at recognizing kind of like real news from fake news. And that didn't really correlate to our experience, and certainly not to Newsround's experience, where, you know, they have a really critical audience, active children that do want to have like, you know, fair and balanced information. So we thought that, you know, we asked ourselves these two questions. Now, what kind of messages are we receiving regarding the way in which children are relating to news and information and ultimately fake news? And also, before making judgments, are we really listening to them, or are we just taking actions, producing content, or conducting research from an uninformed standpoint? So we thought that, you know, in our role as researchers or media producers, we really need to, pay more attention to how they are relating to news in this particularly complicated area in order to, you know, produce better research, better content that will help them, navigate the murky waters of false information. And what we decided to do is conduct this research, embracing the complexity of fake news as it is, and kind of understanding that although, yes, misinformation is a problem, is potentially a threat to democracy, it also has the opportunity of kind of redefining the way in which we relate to different things. And I highlighted this third point here because I think this is particularly relevant. So after a crisis of mainstream media and people distrusting, big kind of like media companies, are we maybe kind of seeing the birth of a redefinition in trust in the way in which, young children and young people are seeing mainstream media? So we decided to tackle this issue, which is obviously very, very wide, trying to approach this subject from a neutral and especially horizontal perspective, understanding that this is, fake news is also a problem for us adults. But we wanted to have their insight, both at a theoretical and at a practical level, assessing news and information. So we thought, if we want to talk about fake news, we might as well also delve into how they are relating to news in general, how they consume news, how they feel when consuming news, which devices they use. Kind of to see the topic of fake news as such, we thought, how do children decide when to trust or when not to trust an article? There's obviously a decision there that might not be conscious, but it's there. So the whole how trust features in the relationship they establish with news sources and with news stories, we thought that was particularly interesting. And we also decided to work with the variable of age. Do 10-year-olds assess news stories in the same way as 13-year-olds do? What elements are at stake when we observe children assessing news stories? So we conducted an exploratory research. We conducted original mixed methodology, basically a quantitative tool, which was a survey that we ran amongst 300 young people from years 5, Year 7 and Year 9 from Manchester, Liverpool, Dumfries and Wrexham, so across the whole UK. And we also run 18 focus group sessions where we gathered qualitative insight, which is what I will be mainly sharing with you today. Figures are great, and as I said, we've gathered a lot of data that we're happy to share with you, but I thought that today it would be maybe more interesting to kind of hear the stories behind the figures. During both the survey and the focus group sessions, we decided to first talk with the children and the young people, like, what are you interested in reading? How do you feel when reading news? Kind of general consumption news habits. And then on a second stage, both at the survey and during the sessions, we kind of wanted to assess the children on their assertiveness when evaluating whether a piece of news was real or fake. So we're going to go really quickly through some of the things we find in a survey. Firstly, we ask to children and young people, when consuming news, which is your preferred app or brand to do so, apart from mainstream media. And what's striking from here is that all of them, we have different proportions, but all of them, Year 5, Year 7 and Year 9 children, all of them love YouTube, mostly in the first place, then Instagram for news consumption, Snapchat and WhatsApp. What's interesting here is how, the older the child is, that kind of like percentage between the time they devote to different apps is kind of like even, at least for the first 3, which would be YouTube, Instagram and Snapchat. We also wanted to know, where do you children or young people hear your news first? And we can see a clear shift according to age. So Year 5 children claim that, they got their news mainly first from TV, Year 7 from family, and Year 9 mainly from social media. And obviously this has to do with Year 5s having more co-viewing habits with the families, and the Year 9 children, phone ownership. Obviously they devote more time to that. But what's also interesting here is to see how, with the exception of radio, maybe at the Year 5, more of the, family, TV news and social media and friends are still in the first places always. Before showing you the children's insight on, news consumption in general, I would like to share this, this graph that might be, might look too simple. So we asked the children, do you know what fake news is? And most of them, a striking majority, said yes. But I think this is a nice segue into the next, the clip we're going to watch, because I think it's interesting to pay attention to what's behind that yes. Obviously, we see an increase with age. The older the child, the more aware they are allegedly about fake news. But yeah, I would like to share with you this clip of the focus group sessions we run, where we basically ask the children questions, and also at one point we gave them a pack of different logos of news companies or sites where they could find information, and asked which of them they thought there was most trustworthy. So, do you guys read news at all or listen to news at all?
I watch BBC Sports, and when the fires were on, I watched that in the morning.
Yeah, whenever something big happens.
Well, it depends, because in the morning my mum's always got Good Morning Britain, and I just watch that while I'm eating my breakfast.
Okay.
That's just, everyone does that, Adam.
I just like listening about
normal stuff.
Yeah. Just what happens around the world. I don't mind what it is, I just find it interesting. About the Manchester bombing.
Yeah, because that was so close to us. I read a lot of news about movies.
And on what devices do you read news?
iPad mainly.
Tablet. Tablet and laptop.
Sports. Yeah. And also, that's it really. Unless there's something else that interests me, ISIS and things like that, like terrorist attacks that I find quite interesting.
What about you girls?
I feel if there's been a terrorist attack, I feel like I should go and read up on it. And if there are elections going on.
Sports news. When you have all those conferences about new gadgets and tech and stuff, and it's interesting to see what people are coming up with.
I like just general news, like we all hear about like big stories and like Manchester attack and everything, but I read general news really.
Are you interested in being informed like on a, regularly, or just when something specific happens?
I think when something big
Just
happens.
when big happens, something big happens.
Occasionally when I'm like scrolling through maybe Instagram or something, I see something happen. I'm kind of just like, oh yeah, well that's news. So, like, I guess I don't really go to news on purpose because there's a lot of distressing things, but I think it's good when it's by accident.
Yeah.
News sources, they can't avoid the bad, but they can
Too much of it.
They seem to promote the bad news more than the good news.
I sometimes feel uncomfortable reading newspapers because it would be like a boy or a girl who's around my age, maybe 11 or so, and then they end up getting really sick or something bad happens to them, and I'm like, I'm exactly like them, I'm exactly their age, that could happen to anyone, and it's really scary. And sometimes I don't want to read it since it's all about like tragic things. It could be about car crashes, it's mainly about the bad things. Sometimes good, like the Queen and stuff, but sometimes bad things. And people like us don't want to hear about bad things and everything.
You don't need, first of all, I'm a kid, so I don't need to watch the news or worry about anything because I'm not driving, I'm not cooking. I still wouldn't have to watch the news. I could just do everything to keep myself and my family safe.
I use Instagram and with my friends we all like, with Manchester we all like posted the things about like Pray for Manchester.
Oh, yeah.
So you get news through like that, and also I follow BBC News as well.
Okay, and you don't get news through any other social network?
Well, I'm not allowed to use anything else than Instagram.
Okay, how about you?
I would say Snapchat's the most reliable for news because they have all those. They have if you swipe right, they have all those stories, and they have like BBC News Channel and Sky News Channel that you can like look through. So I trust that. Then I trust Twitter to second for news because I don't use it personally, but you always see it on the news, and with Donald Trump's tweets. So, and I feel like that counts as news. So, and then Instagram, because I don't really look at news on Instagram, but you hear about things.
For example, news, something that people say to other people so they know about it, and fake, something that's not real. Fake news.
It's like lying on the news.
Lying on the news.
To get
like
attention.
Yeah.
They're sort of like using real news and then sort of like twisting it.
Yeah, like
Putting a twist on it.
Like,
Like I escaped going for a tower when you were never actually in the tower in the first place.
Yeah.
It's been so big that I guess everyone knows what it is. It's news reported that is not the truth. So, like, if you say Hillary Clinton won the election, that's fake news. That's big fake news.
Yeah, you won't be able to get away with that because it's not realistic.
Small fake news can be rumours, like football transfer rumours. I read a lot of them, and sometimes they can be outdated. Sometimes they can be wrong. Sometimes they're just outright stupid.
Yeah, Donald Trump uses it a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
What do you think it means?
I think it just means that's a story that someone's made up to like be biased towards a topic or someone to like if in Donald Trump's in his context like to sway the votes against him or something.
Who do you think creates fake news?
Everyone.
Yeah.
Like anyone.
even in school.
Harrison definitely.
Even Harrison comes into our class and saying like, "Ow,
I nearly died yesterday.
yeah, I did that."
To get attention.
Sometimes if it's on a website, their boss tells them like, right, if you get 50 views, I'll give you £10. And then how many more 50 views, I'll give you £10.
Okay.
So they get so they make it like really interesting, like dinosaurs relative found or something. People are always going to click on something to do with the past or something interesting, and then it'll grow, and then they'll get money for making fake news.
Yeah.
I think that fake news people just do it for the money. For example, YouTube. Lots of people just do it for the money. They just want people to watch them, so they get the money. So when people actually click subscribe, the ad company will be like, "Oh, he's a great YouTuber. He has lots of subscribers."
For money.
For money.
For the money.
To get people to believe the wrong thing.
Just for other people's entertainment.
Yeah, they want fun.
I chose Sky News, BBC News and Google.
And why you chose them?
Because Google, you can search up pretty much anything, and it gives you a good idea, and it gives you like loads of websites on it, so you can get more information. And BBC News and Sky News, like they just like tell you all the recent like news and stuff.
Well, I usually see on BBC News and Sky News, I usually see what happens on TV, so it's more believable if there's a picture of it. And The Sun, I don't remember what it is. Is it a newspaper?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, so I don't really read newspapers, but I always find it reliable for some reason.
The most reliable in these packs are BBC News, because I think they're usually they've been around for forever, for as long as I know, and they're usually the first ones to get the stories. And they've been around since the start of TV and the start of news. So I think that's the most reliable.
I trust these three: BBC News, Sky News, and The Guardian. Because I don't know, it's just something about Sky News, like because it's like so expensive to like have. Just I don't see why they would try and do fake news. The Guardian, I'm not really sure if it is reliable like 100%, but I've heard, I know that it's a really popular newspaper, like I just feel like that's a good enough reason. And BBC News, it's like the biggest news company in Britain, so like that wouldn't be fake.
Right. So it's, I mean, I wish we had the time to discuss these videos a bit more, because there's a lot in there. But overall, I would say like there's savviness in terms of a certain kind of fake news, and I was quite surprised. The bits we chose have to do with the most representative, obviously, like opinions that we've gathered. But I'm going to go quickly to show you a clip that has to do with the second bit of our research, which was their practical abilities to detect fake news. So both in the survey and during the focus group sessions, we saw that the children are actually quite good from telling fake news stories from real news stories. But during the survey, where we gave the children tick whether this is an opinion or a fact, that's when they actually really struggled. And during the focus group sessions, we gave the children a pack of 5 different articles, like real news stories, fake news stories, this advertorial, which is a Fiat Panda advertorial, and then also this editorial from The Sun. And I'm going to just focus on these two because the responses we had for these two were quite remarkable. So yeah, I'm going to share this clip with you now.
I think panda cars actually do exist.
I think panda cars do exist. So many people just invent new things. And even crazy things.
It's probably in a country.
China, they painted their own dog to look like a panda, and they say it's a panda dog.
Yeah, so let's start by the title, all right? The headline. So, advertorial, a new breed of panda. Need a car that's modern, practical, and stylish? Then the new panda is just for you. So, what do you think about this headline and the content?
Can't believe it.
Right, there's also another reason, well, 2 more.
Okay.
Right. This is all in bold.
Yeah.
This. And it says site, not web. So you're not on the web, you're on a site. You don't know who that site could have been made by.
It does say web.
It's the Daily Mail online.
The ones that...
I still wouldn't believe it.
You wouldn't believe it.
No, it does say web. That are on Facebook and Instagram.
What do you think about the new breed of panda?
I think that it's real.
Okay.
Because, again, these people are on Facebook, just like Sky and BBC. Millions So, if they were found out lying,
That's a cow.
Yeah,
Is it? I thought, because it says a new breed of panda. So
It's a type of car.
yeah, but breed, that means like a new
yeah, they're
species.
trying to be like,
They're trying to make it interesting, but it isn't.
they're trying to make it different.
Yeah, so they look at it. So you don't see that yet. A new breed of panda. You're like, oh my god, they've discovered a new breed of panda, and then they read it.
Yeah,
Like,
and then
yeah,
because like
a car.
pandas were being extinct.
But would you say this is news?
Yes.
Car of the year 2004. They said it was new. They said it was new. What?
Yeah.
Car of the year 2004, and they said it was new. That's modern, practical, and then the new panda.
So it says the new panda is basically telling you there's a car. It's called the new panda. Skip to the back and
Car of the year 2004.
click here to find out more about the Fiat Panda Car of the Year 2004.
What do you think of all the title of that news?
Advertorial.
Yeah, it's advertisement. I think you can't. News agencies advertise, but they don't make a whole article about advertisement.
They don't have weird pictures like I don't even know about
A
it.
new breed of panda. That's because they wouldn't have that image there. Actually, wait, it's Daily Mail. Okay, it's Daily Mail.
And
I just don't trust Daily Mail.
okay.
And like these pictures, don't know what they're about.
This is fake news. Like Kaylee said, because there's like the little side bits as well. Like,
These. Yeah, they also have like 11.7 likes on Facebook, and that could be seen as reliable. 11.7 million, sorry, and that's like that could be seen as reliable.
I know this is real because I remember watching it on the news.
What?
I remember watching the Theresa May thing. The Theresa
Oh
May
right,
thing.
What does this headline says again? Sorry.
The Sun says Tories need to stop playing the blame game and let Theresa May crack on with making Brexit a success.
the Sun just tells many lies about our city. How can I be sure?
Yeah.
There was this one lie, right? Has anyone heard of the Hillsborough disaster?
No, what happened?
Basically, it was a Liverpool match in Hillsborough.
Yep.
And basically, there was too much people, right? And the police wouldn't let them in the VIP seat. Basically, this newspaper, The Sun, said that it wasn't the police's fault.
Rebel Tories, are they allowed to say
Can
that?
I just say, Tories need to stop playing the game and let Theresa May crack on with Brexit success.
You're a bit biased.
That is so biased.
But would you say that's a news or that's not
Fake
news?
news.
That's definitely fake news too.
It's not fake, it's just biased because they're like. Well, it might be fake, but I don't, because they're not actually saying any much news. They're just saying that they're arguing. But then they were describing Theresa May as like, it would be crazy to like let her go and just like negatively describing some parties to make a political stance.
With the exception of probably this last bit, we were all quite surprised of actually seeing how, the kind of things they kind of paid attention to in order to assess whether it was real or fake, and a whole other array of misinformation in general or an editorial wasn't there, and these were all like pretty like savvy children. So just to go really quickly through our findings. Children and young people still regard mainstream media as trustworthy news sources. And children, especially young children, feel the need to trust news sources. They have an inherent predisposition to trust in what they see. Also, family is the primary source of reliable information. So although its influence might decrease the older the child is, we observe that. It's also it's there. It's a primary source of reliability, and it's also what sets young people's measure of trustworthiness towards news sources. We saw that pretty clearly with the boy talking about The Sun. Also, family and familiarity with the platform or the news outlets are key when assessing the veracity of a news piece. So when it comes to trust toward news, children are more, like younger children, the year 5 children are more platform focused, while young people are more brand or company focused. So with age, they develop the capacity to kind of like see past the platform. And, it's not true just because it's on the telly. It's true because BBC is saying so, for instance. But we also discover that fake news for these children is mainly associated to ridiculous or highly unlikely events, not with misinformation of bias. So as I said, if we see the whole, issue of fake news as a spectrum where, ridiculous stories are one side of the spectrum, but you also have like misinformation on the other one, these children are only having one side of the spectrum. We also saw that age is a determining factor when assessing a news story, but certainly is not the only one. We worked at schools with children that had and had not had digital literacy, and the ones that had, whereas the digital literacy background, were the one that could actually make a more elaborate judgment on the news stories. Also, we've seen that young people's habits when sharing and or commenting news online is very different to the ones we adults have. They explicitly pay attention to their peers' reactions. So, for them, going through Instagram and seeing their peers, posting the praying emoji and Pray for Manchester hashtag, that for them cast as news. Also, although young people are mainly getting their information through social media first, trust towards mainstream media is still strong. And the older the child is, the more they will value, going into kind of like legitimate accounts. Also, although with age, young people are able to prioritize discursive elements over imagery, we were quite surprised as to how the visual elements tend to have more weight than the content itself. And you can clearly see that with the Panda advertorial. Like even the year 9s, they had the text in front of them and they were focusing on the images of the panda and just like not reading. The article was right in front of them and they were more focusing on, that or whether Sky News looks expensive, which, it's a bit worrying because fake news are getting increasingly sophisticated. So in theory, kids are savvy when it comes to fake news, but just with one kind of fake news. So that, as a result, gives us that in practice, they aren't as savvy. Children and young people care about not being deceived, so digital literacy is basic in order to help them develop that basic survival skill. They aren't, they know that they struggle, and they really aren't satisfied just with being, savvy in terms of, tech or in theory. Also, in these 3 age groups we looked into, there's a different notion of, what's real, what's plausible, what's probable. And these cognitive stages give us opportunities to develop appropriate strategies to kind of expose children to digital literacy. If trust in mainstream media is still strong, we have an unmissable opportunity to reconnect with children and young people, not only as consumers, but as citizens. And this just point, I think it speaks for itself, really, is the importance of actually everyone contributing towards having more informed citizens from, each from its own role. So thank you very much.